What if I told you there's a coastline in Europe with water this clear, mountains this dramatic, and prices this low, and almost none of your friends have ever mentioned it? No, it's not Croatia, it's not Greece. This is Albania, and by the end of this video, you're going to wonder why it took this long for anyone to talk about it. Comment below right now, before this video, was Albania even on your radar? Let's see how many of you say no. For decades, Albania was almost completely sealed off from the outside world, and that isolation left behind something unexpected. A country where the coastline never got overdeveloped, where mountain villages still function the way they always have, and where an entire generation of travelers simply skipped it without realizing what they were missing. That's changing fast, but right now, in this exact window of time, you can still stand on a beach here that looks like it belongs in the Maldives, without the Maldives price tag or the Maldives crowd. Over the next 30 minutes, we're covering the Albanian Riviera, a city built on a mountainside overlooking a giant cross-shaped valley, the deepest blue spring you've ever seen, and a mountain range locals genuinely call the Accursed Mountains. Stick around till the end, because I'm asking you a question about which one of these you'd book a flight for first, and I actually want your answer in the comments. Tirana, the capital that painted itself back to life. We start in Tirana, and the first thing that hits you is color. Buildings across the city center painted in bright yellows, pinks, blues, and oranges. A deliberate decision made years ago to shake off the gray, uniform look left behind from decades of isolation. Skanderbeg Square sits at the heart of the city, wide and open, framed by a mix of Ottoman-era mosques, Italian-influenced architecture, and blocky communist-era buildings standing shoulder to shoulder. A physical timeline of the city's shifting identity condensed into one plaza. In the evenings, the square fills with families walking slowly around the fountains, kids on scooters weaving between benches, and street vendors selling roasted corn and cotton candy from small carts. A short walk away, the Pyramid of Tirana, originally built as a museum, now stands as one of the city's most photographed structures, its sloped concrete sides converted into a giant outdoor staircase that locals and visitors climb freely, reaching a rooftop platform with a wide view back across the city's colorful rooftops toward the mountains ringing the horizon. For something genuinely strange, the Bunkart Museum sits inside a massive underground bunker complex built into a hillside on the city's edge, one of thousands of bunkers scattered across the entire country from an era of extreme paranoia about invasion. Walking through its dim concrete corridors, past old gas masks and preserved control rooms, is one of the more surreal experiences you'll have in any European capital. And honestly, if you've never heard of Albania's bunker obsession before this, drop a comment, because it's one of the strangest things about this entire country, and we're about to get into exactly why. Above the city, Mount Dashti rises steeply just a few kilometers from the center, reachable by a cable car that climbs high enough to turn Tirana into a small, colorful patchwork far below. The surrounding mountains stretching out in every direction once you reach the top station. Near the cable car's lower station, a section of the mountain park has been developed, with short walking trails, small restaurants, and lookout points, popular with local families on weekends looking to escape the heat of the city below. At the upper station, a handful of hiking trails continue further into the pine forest, leading to quieter viewpoints away from the small crowd that typically gathers near the main platform. Back down in the city, the Bloku district, once restricted entirely to communist-era officials and off-limits to ordinary citizens, has become the trendiest part of Tirana, its streets now lined with cafes, boutiques, and bars that stay busy well into the night, a striking contrast to its restricted past that most visitors today wouldn't guess just by walking through it. But Tirana, colorful as it is, isn't really what put Albania on the map for most travelers recently. That's happening 200 kilometers south, on a coastline most of Europe is only just discovering. The Albanian Riviera, the coast nobody warned you about. The road south from Tirana climbs over the Llogara Pass, a dramatic mountain crossing where dense pine forest suddenly opens onto a jaw-dropping first view of the coastline below. The Ionian Sea, stretching out in impossibly saturated shades of turquoise and deep blue, cliffs dropping straight down towards small coves scattered along the shore. This is the start of the Albanian Riviera, and the further south you go, the more unreal the water gets. Dhërmi is often the first stop, a village stacked into the hillside above a long pebble beach, beach clubs and small guest houses built directly into the slope, terraces stacked one above another, so nearly every room gets an uninterrupted sea view. The water here shifts from pale turquoise in the shallows to a deep sapphire blue further out, clear enough in most spots to see straight to the bottom, even several meters offshore. Further down the coast, Himarë combines a working fishing town with a growing beach scene, its old stone quarter climbing the hillside above the harbor, narrow lanes lined with olive trees, and small tavernas serving fresh grilled fish caught that same morning. But the moment that convinces most people Albania isn't exaggerated on Instagram happens in Ksamil, a cluster of small islands just offshore, close enough to wade or swim to, surrounded by water so clear and so blue it genuinely looks digitally enhanced, even in unedited footage. Small boats ferry visitors out to the islands for a few dollars, and standing on one of them, looking back at the mainland through water that shifts between turquoise, teal, and deep blue in visible bands, it's easy to understand why this stretch of coast has exploded in popularity over the last few years. Just past Ksamil, Saranda serves as the region's main town, a lively waterfront promenade lined with restaurants and cafes, ferries departing regularly for the short crossing across to Corfu in Greece, visible clearly from the shore on most days. Between Himarë and Saranda, smaller coves like Gjipë and Gjall remain noticeably quieter than the main towns, reachable either by boat or a short hike down from the coastal road, their pebble beaches backed by dramatic cliffs and almost no permanent development beyond a couple of seasonal beach bars. These are the spots locals still tend to recommend quietly, aware that the busier towns further along the coast get more attention than they can really handle during peak summer weeks. Further along, the Porto Palermo Castle sits on a small peninsula jutting out into the sea, its stone walls surrounded almost entirely by water, connected to the mainland by a narrow strip of land just wide enough for a footpath. Climbing to the top of its walls offers a sweeping view back along the coastline in both directions, the water shifting through the same striking range of blues found throughout this entire stretch of shore. Quick comment prompt: if you had to pick one, would you rather stay in a quiet hillside village like Dhërmi or a livelier beach town like Saranda? Tell me below, because I'm planning the exact route for anyone who wants to follow this trip step by step. Berat, the the city of 1,000 windows. Heading back inland, Berat sits stacked against a steep hillside above the Ksamil River, its old Ottoman-era houses climbing the slope in tightly packed rows, hundreds of large windows catching the afternoon light across the entire hillside, which is exactly how the city earned its nickname, the City of 1,000 Windows. From across the river, the effect is striking. An entire hillside of white houses with dark wooden window frames, stacked so densely and so uniformly that from a distance it looks almost like a single continuous structure rather than hundreds of individual homes. A steep climb up through the old quarter leads to a hilltop castle whose walls still enclose a living neighborhood. Families continue to live inside the fortress walls today, their homes, small churches, and a working mosque scattered across the hilltop grounds, with sweeping views down across the entire town and the river valley stretching out below. Below the castle, the old stone bridge crossing the Ksamil River offers one of the best photo spots in the entire country. The traditional white houses climbing the hillside behind it, especially striking in the golden hour just before sunset when the entire hillside seems to glow. The town's cobblestone streets are lined with small wine bars and restaurants serving Albanian specialties, many built into converted historic houses with courtyards shaded by grapevines, a noticeably quieter, slower pace than the busier beach towns on the coast. Just outside town, the Ksamil Canyon cuts a dramatic path through the surrounding countryside, pale limestone walls rising on either side of a shallow, slow-moving river, reachable on short rafting trips that drift gently between the cliffs during the warmer months. Gjirokastër, the Stone City. South of Berat, Gjirokastër presents a completely different atmosphere. An entire old town built from grey stone, its houses topped with heavy stone-tiled roofs, designed to withstand the region's harsh winters, climbing a steep hillside beneath a massive hilltop fortress. Walking the old town's uneven cobblestone lanes feels like moving through a town carved entirely from a single material. Walls, roofs, and streets, all blending into the same pale grey stone, occasionally broken up by wooden balconies and shuttered windows painted in muted greens and blues. The fortress above town is one of the largest in the Balkans, its long stone corridors and towers offering sweeping views across the entire valley below, along with an unusual collection of old military hardware, including a decommissioned aircraft parked within the fortress grounds, an odd but memorable detail that surprises most first-time visitors. The old bazaar at the base of the hill remains an active shopping street, lined with small stalls selling traditional wool socks, handmade jewelry, and local wine and raki, Albania's beloved grape brandy, often offered as a free taste before you've even asked. Just outside the old town, a handful of restored Ottoman-era houses have been converted into small museums, their interiors preserved with original wooden ceilings, built-in cabinets, and stone fireplaces, offering a glimpse into how wealthier merchant families once lived across multiple stacked floors, connected by narrow internal staircases. The house where one of the country's most famous writers was born sits among them, now a small museum itself, drawing a steady trickle of visitors curious about the connection between the Stone City and its literary legacy. If you've made it this far into the video, comment Stone City below. I want to know how many of you are actually taking notes for a future trip versus just here for the scenery. Blue Eye and the southern countryside. Not far from Gjirokastër and Saranda, a natural spring known as the Blue Eye or Siri-i Kaltër sits tucked into dense forest, a near-perfectly circular pool of intensely blue water fed by an underground spring whose actual depth has never been fully measured. The color is almost impossible to describe accurately on camera. A deep, saturated blue at the center, fading to lighter turquoise near the edges. The water so clear that submerged rock formations remain visible several meters down. A wooden walkway circles the pool, and the surrounding forest stays noticeably cooler than the open countryside beyond it, shaded thickly by tall trees growing right up to the water's edge. The wider countryside around this region is dotted with small farming villages, olive groves stretching across rolling hills, and roadside stalls selling homemade cheese, honey, and bottles of raki distilled by the family selling it, often with an invitation to sample a glass before deciding whether to buy. A short drive from the Blue Eye, the Vjosa River winds through one of the last major undammed river systems left in Europe. Its wide, braided channels of pale turquoise water cutting through gravel banks and forested hillsides, largely untouched by development. Small wooden fishing boats occasionally drift along the calmer stretches, and the surrounding valley remains sparsely populated enough that long sections of the riverbank feel completely wild, a rare thing to find on a continent where most major rivers have been dammed or heavily modified. The Accursed Mountains, Theth-Valbona. In the far north, the landscape transforms entirely. This is the Albanian Alps, locally called the Accursed Mountains, a name that comes less from anything sinister and more from just how remote and difficult this terrain has historically been to cross. Reaching the village of Theth means either a long, rough mountain drive or a multi-day trek over the Valbona Pass, connecting two valleys through some of the most dramatic scenery in the entire country. The trail climbs through pine forest and open alpine meadows before crossing a high pass framed by jagged limestone peaks on either side, eventually descending into whichever valley you didn't start in. The Theth itself sits in a wide green valley ringed by steep mountain walls, traditional stone kulla towers scattered across the landscape. Originally built as fortified family homes during periods when blood feuds made a secure retreat necessary, many now converted into simple guest houses welcoming hikers passing through. A short walk from the village leads to a waterfall dropping into a startlingly blue pool, cold enough that most visitors only manage a quick dip before climbing back out onto the sun-warmed rocks beside it. The Valbona Valley on the other side offers an equally dramatic but slightly gentler landscape. A wide river of pale turquoise water running through the valley floor, framed by forested slopes, climbing steeply toward bare rock peaks above the tree line. Small guest houses run by local families dot the valley, most serving home-cooked meals using ingredients grown or raised on the same property. Getting between Valbona and the rest of the country typically involves either the same rough mountain road or a scenic ride along the Lake Koman ferry route, meaning most travelers end up combining the two experiences into a single loop, hiking one direction over the pass, then riding the ferry back out through the mountains on the return leg. Throughout both valleys, traditional stone kulla towers remain scattered across the landscape, some still in use as family homes, others slowly falling into ruin. Their thick walls and small, deliberately narrow windows a visible reminder of a very different way of life that shaped this region for generations. Honestly, If you're someone who actually gets outdoors and hikes, tell me in the comments, Theth to Valbona or Valbona to Theth. Locals argue about which direction has the better views, and I want to settle it once and for all in this comment section. Lake Koman and the ferry through the mountains. Connecting the north of the country to the rest of the road network, the Lake Koman ferry cuts through one of the most dramatic stretches of scenery in Albania. A narrow reservoir carved between steep mountain walls, the boat winding through tight canyon sections where the cliffs rise almost directly out of the water on both sides. The 2.5-hour crossing passes tiny lakeside settlements, only reachable by boat, small wooden docks jutting out from otherwise empty shoreline, and stretches where the water narrows so much it feels more like navigating a river gorge than a lake. Locals still use this ferry as genuine transport rather than just a tourist attraction, carrying groceries, livestock, and building materials between villages that have no road access at all. Toward the northern end, the mountains grow increasingly dramatic, sheer rock faces plunging straight into the water, occasional waterfalls cutting thin white lines down the cliffside after recent rain, the whole scene feeling less like anywhere in Europe and more like a fjord transplanted into the Balkans. Local life, food, and hospitality. Across every region of this trip, from the coastal towns of the Riviera to the mountain villages of Theth, one thing stays constant: hospitality that borders on insistence. Raki, a strong grape or fruit brandy usually homemade, functions almost as a greeting ritual, offered to guests within minutes of arrival, regardless of the time of day, often alongside a small plate of olives, cheese, and cured meat as an unofficial appetizer before any real meal is discussed. Meals lean heavily on fresh, simple ingredients: grilled meat and vegetables, byrek, a flaky pastry filled with cheese, spinach, or minced meat, and fergesa, a rich baked dish of peppers, tomatoes, and cheese, often served bubbling straight from a clay pot. Along the coast, freshly grilled fish and seafood dominate menus, frequently served with little more than lemon, olive oil, and bread. Coffee culture runs deep here too. Small cups of thick Turkish-style coffee, sipped slowly over long conversations at outdoor cafes that spill onto sidewalks in nearly every town, regardless of size. It's common to see the same group of men sitting at the same cafe table at the same time every single day. A small daily ritual that outsiders quickly get pulled into if they stick around long enough. Sundays typically bring extended family gatherings, often centered around slow-roasted lamb or a large shared pan of baked vegetables and rice. Meals stretching for hours, with multiple rounds of coffee and raki bookending the actual eating. In rural mountain areas, homemade dairy products remain a point of quiet pride. Families frequently offering guests a taste of their own fresh cheese or yogurt within minutes of arrival, regardless of whether a meal was actually planned. Markets in smaller towns still run heavily on personal relationships, vendors recognizing regular customers by name and often adjusting prices informally for people they know. A small-town rhythm that has largely disappeared from bigger cities, but remains very much alive across most of the countryside. Hidden facts. A few things about this country most people never learn. Albania is estimated to have somewhere between 170,000 and even more than that in concrete bunkers scattered across the entire country, built during a decades-long period of extreme isolation, many still standing today in fields, on beaches, and along mountain roads, repurposed by locals as everything from storage sheds to impromptu cafes. The Blue Eye Spring's true depth has never been officially confirmed, with early diving attempts unable to reach the bottom of the underground channel feeding it, leaving the exact source of the spring still something of a mystery. Gjirokastër and Berat are both recognized for their unusually well-preserved Ottoman-era architecture, largely because Albania's isolation for much of the 20th century meant neither city underwent the kind of rapid modern redevelopment that reshaped many similar towns elsewhere in the Balkans. And the Lake Koman ferry route follows a reservoir that didn't even exist before a dam was built decades ago, meaning this entire dramatic canyon crossing is, geologically speaking, a relatively recent creation layered on top of a much older mountain landscape. Albania's coastline is split into two distinct seas, the Adriatic to the north and the Ionian to the south, with the water noticeably clearer and bluer once you cross south of the Jogara Pass, a shift dramatic enough that many first-time visitors assume they've entered a different country entirely. And despite decades of near-total isolation, cutting the country off from international travel, Albania's alphabet and language remain entirely unique in Europe, unrelated to any neighboring language family, a linguistic island that developed largely independently over centuries. From the colorful streets of Tirana to water this clear on the Riviera, to a stone city stacked against a hillside, to mountains locals still call cursed, Albania packs an enormous amount of contrast into one small, affordable, still quiet corner of Europe. This entire trip probably costs less than a long weekend in most Western European capitals, and yet almost nothing about the scenery feels like a budget version of anything. We covered a lot in this video, but we still didn't get to everything. The northern city of Shkodër and its lakeside castle, the ancient ruins near Butrint on the southern coast, or the smaller mountain villages scattered across the interior. If this video does well, that's more than enough reason to come back and finish the map. So here's the real question. Out of everything in this video, which single spot are you adding to your list first? Ksamil's Islands, Theth's Mountains, or Berat's Thousand Windows? Comment below, and if this video actually convinced you Albania deserves more attention, hit like and subscribe, because there's a lot more of this country we haven't even covered yet. This is Albania, quiet for now, but probably not for much longer.